What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to Veve Vibes, where I love talking all things Veve NFTs, speculation, and of course the market. So I'm really excited to bring you guys this video, not because genuinely I'm trying to put Veve on blast or Alex G or anyone else that's related to the Veve project or other content creators. None of that stuff really matters. I love Veve. I like Alex G. I've never talked to the guy other than literally this tweet thread. But I really think these are the kind of questions I would love to ask in an AMA rather than, hey, will my DeLorean fly in the Veveverse? And have you guys thought about this for busting bots? That stuff doesn't really matter. I'm more focused on things that are going to actually affect people's influence and purchasing the market, profitability, usability, all that stuff. That's the things I care about, and investing strategies, all that stuff. So the main reason why I wanted to go on here and talk about this is because this is something that a lot of people I think have been frustrated with, silently frustrated, such as myself, ever since the FE tag change. I think the community was asking for clarification, not wide sweeping changes to tags. There's been a lot of inconsistency between which things were left with tags, what things had tags change, what things are going to be getting tags in the future. So that's why I kind of wanted to ask for some clarification through this tweet thread. And I'm willing to bet you 99% of you guys on the app did not know that this is actually how FE works. So it all started with a tweet from Bluebeard. It says, hey, Reverend Alex G, I have one more question about FE tags. Can there be only one FE of a character? For example, Goofy. Later, if we get a poster with Goofy or a book with Goofy, could those also be FE, or would there only be one FE Goofy? He said, FE is based on the work, not the character. For example, if more Goofy lenticular cards came out, they will not be FE, but a Goofy movie poster, for example, would be FE. Okay. That relatively makes sense. And he says, will Veve ever review Mickey Sorcerer's Hat? Seems unfair due to its importance. I think importance plays nothing into it. It's not a silly question, but it's just not relevant. He said, importance should not factor into tags. It's an object, therefore it's first edition. It's worth noting that we do not consider FA to be better than FE or vice versa. And after seeing this tweet thread for a while, I had to step in and ask some questions. So here I said, I think the community determines if FA tag is better than FE, not Veve, and it shows on the market. So you're saying hey, we don't consider FA to be better than FE, or vice versa. One could argue that FA is better than FE because FA is a unique one-time tag that is tied to a character. I couldn't fit all of it in a tweet. And FE will be an infinitely repeatable saturated tag based on a character or whatever it is. Any reason not to limit FA and FE to one each per character? He said, the distinction was we don't consider, but the market's going to market. Okay. FA is one per character. FE is not character based. So there would not be a limit. So he said there's actually not a limit to FE tags. I'm not sure if you meant per character or whatever. So technically there's no limit to FE tags on a character. We're going to get a little bit more in depth as to why that is a bit here. Does that mean if there were more lenticular cards in the future, none of them would be FE, regardless of the character, since we already have first edition set on Veve? He said, series/format FE, any future Mickey and Friends lenticular cards will not be FE. But if there was, say, Simpsons lenticular cards, they would be FE. Like stamps, any future Day of the Dead would not be FE. And the reason why I actually framed the question this way is because if we actually look at the first edition paragraph that they have in their most recent article, most recent Medium article that talked about the FE changes, it says right here, note that the first editions are reserved for any objects making their debut on Veve and not the blockchain in general. Even though most cases, no, sorry, up here. Vehicle, blah, blah, or art-based format, lenticular cards, makes its debut on Veve, it will be considered first edition or FE. First editions are reserved for any objects, blah, blah. So in my mind, I'm thinking, the way I'm reading this is okay, the first edition of lenticular cards, I'm thinking about the art-based format, and that's even what he says too. It's connected to the art, right? The art style. So lenticular cards, if there's any other lenticular cards come out in the future, whether it's related to Mickey or Marvel or DC or Powerpuff Girls or whatever it is, those are not FE because technically we have the first edition of lenticular cards, and then it just so happens to be Mickey and Friends. In my mind, that's the way as I'm reading it. But he keeps bringing up other IPs like Simpsons. Hey, those would be FE. Like Stance, any future the Day of the Dead would not be FE. I said, thank you for answering my question. Just one more. Say there is another series of lenticular cards called Movie Club. It actually does exist. I put a picture. I looked up on Google. By the way, Disney has a ton of different lenticular cards connected to Mickey and all the different characters and stuff. So there's dozens of them. So I don't think it's out of the question to think that Disney says, hey, these lenticular cards did pretty well. We have a new series of lenticular cards. We want to introduce them. One of them has Mickey. Can we do it? And what's Veve going to say? No, we don't want to do that. I mean, they're probably not going to say no to Disney anytime soon. They might whatever. Say there's another series of lenticular cards called Movie Club with this exact card with Mickey. Is this also FE since it's a new series? Is it possible for a character, parentheses Mickey, to have multiple FEs in the same artwork type? And so then he said, FE is not character based, but yes, it would be FE because of a new series, Movie Club. So it's interesting how they don't talk about the same IP. He's always announcing a new character or a new IP. Yes, these would be FE, but he doesn't mention that, like, oh yeah, by the way, Mickey could actually have multiple FEs even within the same artwork style, whether it's a poster or a lenticular card. So technically, if Disney really wanted to, as long as it's a new series, as long as it's not tied to the Mickey and Friends series, Mickey could have another FE. It could exactly be lenticular cards. I'm not going to read that one. That's a response I'll read later. And then I told him, or I asked, so the FE tag is more tied to a new series than anything, since it's repeatable within the same art style, meaning, so Mickey, as long as it's a new series, Mickey FEs could be technically infinite, as long as it's a new series. The season 1 posters, or the series 1 posters of 007 are FE, and the series 2, or set 2 posters are non-tagged. Got it. Does that mean that the season 1, the series 1 ultra rare Asher Martin should be FE, but the series 2 Asher Martin should be untagged? So let me explain this here. Since he basically said, as long as it's a new series, it'll have an FE tag. Maybe these rules are different for the premium digital collectibles that they're talking about. So here we have the 007 posters. So this is the first series. It says set 1. Okay, cool. So first edition makes sense. This is first edition. This is first edition. Makes sense. Okay, it's part of series 1. Any further series or sets or whatever and there's also a distinction between series and sets. So this is set 2. No FE tag. None of the rest of the 007 posters have an FE tag. But if we look up here, and mostly because that's a different set. Sorry, bear with me as I'm scrolling up. I gotta go all the way to the top to the Aston Martins. So, the Aston Martin Ultra Rare was a solo drop by itself. And technically that's its debut, but the debut thing doesn't matter. So at the bottom it says Aston Martin Series 1. Almost everything about it is identical compared to the Secret Rare, like the tags, or not the tags, but the series number on it. The only difference is that this says S2. So does that mean Series 2? Does that mean Set 2? So in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, based off this logic, the Ultra Rare should be FE, but because this is a second set, it's not technically the debut, even though it happened later in the day. This is the second set. Should this be untagged? Should the Secret Rares actually be untagged and not have FE? And if it's because, I was kind of hoping he would give a response. It was pretty late at night at the time. So even if he does say, well, those are different because the Ultra Rare is a Series 1 and the Secret Rares are a Series 2. It's a new series, but it's very, very similar. If that's the logic, then could Disney potentially say, all right, this is the Series 1 of Mickey and Friends lenticular cards. We have a Series 2. These are different. It's the Series 2, but now we have them in pairs. So now Mickey and Minnie are together. Now Goofy and Pluto are together. And now Donald and Daisy are together, in one card. As long as it's announced as a Series 2, if it's a Set 2, then it doesn't get FE tags. But if it's Series 2, then it does get FE tags, even though they already appeared earlier in the same set of Mickey and Friends. So that's the part that gets really confusing, is like the whole series change, series versus set, and can you have multiple series within the same IP? Because they've already kind of done it with No Time to Die. And if that's the case, if those are different, then I guess we have the artwork format and the premium digital collectible format are following different rules. So this part this is the part that gets very confusing very quickly. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I care about Veve. There are people literally investing hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into these digital NFTs. And a lot of times, we don't even know how FE works. We don't know what future things could potentially have FE. Because I was going to mention here, I'm like, there's people investing into the Disney lenticular cards right now because of the tag and the character. We think, okay, cool. Donald Duck I thought in my mind, Donald Duck is done with FE tags. He has an FA, he has an FE tag, and he's done. People are investing in lenticular cards because of the character and the tag, but it goes to show that neither of those things are unique. Neither of those things are actually stopping Veve or Disney or whatever from making literally another set of lenticular cards or another series of lenticular cards and having those exact same characters and tags just be on another series of cards. Those things do not make it unique at all whatsoever. And that's kind of what it calls into question. How is FE equal to FA or how is FA equal to FE if FE is literally infinitely repeatable, not tied to a character, and it's not tied to an artwork, it's just strictly tied to a new series. So it's not based on artwork, based on what he's saying here. And again, I'm not saying Alex G is the end all be all. Maybe he misinterpreted some of the rules on the back end, so maybe he'll clarify this, whatever it is. But in my mind, it's like FE is as long as it's a new series, any character, anything is infinitely repeatable, which is why I kind of put out this last tweet. If the FE tag is repeatable, within the same artwork style, then this whole makes its debut on Veve, its FE line pretty much moot. Revision maybe? So this is the line I talked about earlier. You know, art-based format like posters, lenticular cards, makes its debut on Veve, it will be considered an FE or first edition or FE. It's not tied to the artwork because he just said if there's a new series of lenticular cards with Mickey on it, it's going to be FE. So it's actually not tied to the artwork at all. So what they should do is just get rid of all of this artwork stuff and just say, hey, when there's a new series that's announced and it's not in a premium digital collectible format, like it said here, because first appearances can only happen in the premium digital collectible format. That's the 3D statues and all that stuff. They should say, like, if anything that is not a 3D printed, 3D printable, oh God, tongue twister, premium digital collectible format, if it's not that and it's a new series, it's an FE, regardless of characters. It could have even mixing characters. It could have, Lara Croft and Storm and Goofy and Minnie and Batman. It could have all those literally in one set. As long as it's a new set, that's all that matters. So that's kind of what I'm understanding here. And I said, revision maybe. I said, I love Veve and what y'all do, by the way. I bring this up because I do care. I look forward to you bringing me up to ask questions next AMA. I was just kind of having some fun there. I kind of wanted to make it a bit more lighthearted. I know Alex G's, he likes to have fun. He likes to keep things like lighthearted. I think the whole chili pepper thing, I agree with him. Like, people just blew it out of proportion for the most part. Take it for what you will. But there's already people memeing on it. I told Dino Lang, we talked about it on the stream recently, when everything is FE, nothing will be. And so even now, like Tao, I don't know who this is, but Tao, like, even despite all the explanations, he is still, or she is still misunderstanding it. For my understanding, FE is equal to FA, or FA is equal to FE. So FA stands for first appearance of a character, and FE is the first appearance in any kind of art, lenticular, poster, snow globes, etc. But on your last tweet, it reveals that FE stands for each kind of art. Not what I understood first, confusing. Even then, it's not tied to an art, it's tied to a series. So he even said, technically, as long as it's a new series, they could have 11 series of lenticular cards and all have appearances of Mickey. As long as it's within that first set that releases in the series, it's gonna have the FE tag. So even now, this is still incorrect. All right, post-production Veve vibes here. Sorry, some other points I forgot to mention until after the video. But if the FE tag is tied to more of a series rather than the characters themselves, the only reason why the Unicornos and Murmurcornos are actually all FE tags individually is just because it's a new series. If you look at the Unicornos, there's Series 1 and Series 2, Series 3. But let's say they introduced another series and they just did a repeat of Muka or Prima Donna or Selena, or if they started putting them in pairs and it's one NFT but like two of the characters together, that's still going to be FE because it's just a new series, right? And even if it is a new series, one question I had is like, all right, Ghostbusters right here, Series 1, the Ghostbusters logo here is FE. That makes sense. But if it follows a series, then why is the golden one not tagged at all? I feel like that should have an FE because it's not part of the same series. This is Toy Tokyo Moogly, but these ones over here are the series, at least by the title, is actually tied to Ghostbusters 1, Series 1. So in my mind, because it's a new series and it's not tied to it, it's a completely different thing. It's a Tokyo.com, ToyTokyo.com like thing. Should it have at least a different tag or maybe an FE tag? It's a different series, or is it tied to something else? This is kind of the part that's just very confusing in my head, is just, could we, as long as it's a new series, could we just have repeat characters or repeat NFTs? Does it really matter at the end of the day? So I would love for them to do a revision or a further explanation of how the FE tags work. And I think it's I wouldn't say misleading, but when they're saying, oh, well, there's no difference between FA and FE tag, it kind of shows in the market. People immediately after this announcement, people were just immediately dumping all of their FE tag stuff, switching to first appearance. And I can't think of a time, I can't think of why someone would go on Veve and say, oh, I'm going to jump on Veve because I'm looking specifically for lenticular cards. Comic books are probably the only exception because it's kind of its own standalone thing. It has its own FAs. It's kind of like in its own realm. But like, I don't see people jumping on the app being like, I want to buy posters. I want to buy lenticular cards. I'm trying to buy snow globes. Like even on their website, this is like their official website. Everything is tied to, you know, either the IP or the character. People are coming on because they want Marvel, they want Batman, Adventure Time, Monster Hunter, NFLPA, DC Collectibles, Star Trek, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, Back to the Future, Ultraman, Superman. So they're bringing up IPs and characters specifically. But when we later realize that the FE tag has literally nothing to do with characters, IPs, any of that stuff, it's infinitely repeatable. As long as it's a new series, it's infinitely repeatable. Not too sure about that. So I would just love some clarification. And again, this is not me trying to call out Veve or saying Reverend Alex is wrong or they need, you know, whatever it is. Like, all I want is clarification. That's literally all I want. And I think that's all we asked from in the beginning. What is the clarification? We're not asking for wide sweeping changes. You know, we're not asking for you guys to change the metadata on the back end or anything like that. I still think there's a silent people. There's still a lot of people that are silently upset about the FA tag change, including myself. Why not just leave the tags as they were and just go on moving forward? Like, hey, look, we made a mistake. We're going to make some changes going forward. We understand you guys have invested hundreds, thousands, and not tens of thousands of gems or dollars into this app. We're going to give the black and white series a pass because for reasons. So we don't want to upset a lot of the OG users that were on the app early that got Batman and Harley Quinn. We don't want to upset the thousands of mints that were printed with Batman and Harley Quinn, but we will upset and or change the hundreds of thousands of minted NFTs that people have been investing in. I mean, I think the earliest one that's dropped on here is the DeLorean. Like, the DeLorean has had the tag for, where is it? Yeah, the DeLorean has had that tag for just as long as Batman has. I think that's one of the first drops that happened like in series 1 for the most part, or season 1, I should say. So like, DeLorean had the tag for like 11 months and like they want to change it. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't want to kind of go into other topics or whatever. Like, I think one of the worst things they could do is actually revert the changes. All I want is further clarification about the FE tag, and like, please update the article, because as it is, it sounds like it's based on art-based format, but it's not at all. It has nothing to do with whether it's the serial killers or the artwork set or the DeLorean. Like, literally, the IP doesn't matter. As long as it's a new set, it's getting FE. That's all that matters. So that's my interpretation of it. Sorry I went on this like super long rant. Again, I'm just getting worked up because I care about Veve. I want to make sure people are getting the right information, the right investing advice. We do have people are asking me all the time, hey, I'm planning on investing $500, $1,000, $25,000. Hey, if I had 25K, what should I invest in? Like, people are asking me these questions, and it's like, I'm trying to give them advice on NFTs that I think will do well in the future. Of course, none of this is financial advice, but I think it's been a little bit too long that we're just giving Veve a pass that like, oh, they're new and all that stuff. It's like, I think they need to make some revisions and make this FE thing a bit more clear. And I would love to ask more questions about how the FE tags work and all that stuff. And if that is the case, you know, why is the 007 Aston Martin cars, why are those both FE, even though they were technically two separate drops, two different series? And as long it's, you know, even though they're both Aston Martins, because it's a two different series, does that mean the lenticular cards, Mickey and Friends, could be a new series and be almost identical, but as long as it's a new series, it's a new thing? Could there be a series within a series? Like, that's in sets like that. All that stuff kind of confuses me. So I would love some clarification on that. Whether you're watching this from Veve's end or content creators, I would love for you guys to give me some information. And what do you guys think about this whole thing down in the comments below? I think I've dragged on this ending long enough. Hope you guys take care. And of course, please double and triple check all of your listings before you post them so you don't screw yourselves over. Please take care, and I'll catch you guys next time.